Hello, good evening, welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live on news about Desawe Kanda, also live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. I am Alfred Ocansey.
My name is Beatrice.
This evening, government releases underage queen mother Na Okromo into the care of her parents after investigations revealed she is not married to the Nungwa chief priest, Bobo Wolomo.
Also, contract for sale saga takes a new twist as Office of the Special Prosecutor files 8 fresh charges against former PPA boss Ajeni Boatin Ejei.
Also coming up this evening, labor unions threaten possible industrial disruptions over government's failure to credit their deducted pension dues and other third-party contributions for months. We have details for you from some of the leaders of the various labor unions. Stay with us here on Hot Edition. Also, we're getting strong caution to the Finance Ministry and the Accountant General to transfer all of these deducted funds designated to the institutions within 1 week. Also live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W93.5. We're live on Facebook at 3FM927. Grace Hamoajiman is here with a summary of the news. Grace.
Yes, Alfred, let's get straight into it. And the Office of the Special Prosecutor has filed fresh charges against the former Chief Executive Officer of the Public Procurement Authority, Ajeni Boateng Ejei. The OSP filed the charges on April 17 this year. Mr. Ajeni Boateng Ejei faces 8 charges related to the misuse of public office for personal gain and manipulation of the procurement process to gain an unfair advantage in securing procurement contracts. Additionally, 1 charge of misusing public office for personal profit against his co-accused Francis Kweku, who happens to be his brother-in-law, has been dropped. To other stories, government has released Na Okromo, also known as Na Yomo Ayemwade, the young girl in the middle of a controversy surrounding her alleged marriage to the Gbogbu, the Nungwa deity, into the care of her parents today. Government at a media briefing said their investigations have established that Na Okromo is not married to the Gbogbu Wolomo and she remains a virgin. And Teachers and Education Workers Union TEU has joined calls for government to immediately review the free SHS to allow parents also share in the course. According to the union, the current situation has increased enrollment in schools, which has imposed a burden on the non-teaching staff in the various institutions across the country. That's it for the summaries.
Grace, thank you very much for this. And it's live here on Hot Edition. Let's get into the details now, shall we? And the issues of Na Okromo is back after the traditional authorities, we understand, threatened last night to storm the Coconut Grove Regency Hotel to retrieve her forcefully?
Certainly, yes. And the government today has released the underage queen mother of Nungwa, Na Okromo, also known as Na Yomo Ayemwade, into the care of her parents. The government at a news briefing said that their investigations have established that Na Okromo is not married to the chief priest of Nungwa, Bobo Wolomo, and she remains a virgin. Na Yomo Ayemwade was taken into the custody of the state on April 1 following her alleged betrothal and subsequent customary marriage to the Bobo Wolomo on Saturday, March 30. News about the alleged marriage to the 63-year-old traditional priest sparked public outrage, resulting in her being taken into the care of the Department of Social Welfare. On Wednesday, members of the Nungwa Traditional Council stormed the Coconut Regency Group Hotel in Accra to demand her release from what they described as unlawful detention. This was what transpired last night at the hotel, where the girl was allegedly lodging with a caretaker.
That is why we have been feeding here. We have been around since morning, combed through all the various agencies responsible for this particular issue. And we were expecting that, as at their pledge and their promise since Friday, that they were going to release the lady for us, our Queen Mother for us. Nothing seems to be coming out. What is going on? I pray that the president will step out and say a word of authority to whoever is keeping our Queen Mother to release the person to go.
What will be your next line of action if they don't release her to you?
Right now, the fetish priests and priestess are now invoking our gods. And we know the implications of when gods are invoked. Have you ever seen an egg sitting down before? Now they place an egg and the egg is sitting down. Then that means something else is going to happen next. If they start undressing themselves, stripping themselves naked to invoke curses on this thing, it will turn into another thing. Who are you to defend this issue spiritually? It's something that is serious. We need to look at it again. Let the Queen Mother be released now and nothing else.
So you heard what transpired there last night. Now, at a media briefing a while ago, the Minister Designate for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Dakwa Newman, said that the Attorney General has advised that the girl be released to her family. Her parents are also to sign a bond to ensure that all her rights as a child are adhered to.
So the Social Welfare Department, under the Ministry of Gender, has taken the child through counseling. The required medical assessments have also been undertaken. The counselors and caregivers have had conversations with the child and relatives about her education, her health, and her future prospects. So I would like you all to know that the medical assessment on the child, it indicates that she's not pregnant and she has no immediate health concerns. Now, Okromo's date of birth, from records at her creche and her primary schools she attended, indicates that she's 15 years old. And she was born on the 18th of July, 2008. The child will continue to pursue her education, and the Attorney General has issued an interim report, which is dated 18th April 2024, and has advised that in the best interest of the child, and in accordance with Section 2 and 5 of the Children's Act, the child should be released to her parents pending their complete review of the docket. Thus, the child will be reunited with her family today, 18th April 2024, after the parents have signed a bond.
You heard the Minister Designate for Gender and Social Protection, Dakwa Newman. Deputy Attorney General Alfred says the Office of the AG is still studying the full docket of the issue.
And our officers are reviewing the docket to ascertain various issues. One, whether what took place was actually marriage or not. We have not come to any conclusion on that issue yet. So the officers in the ministry are reviewing the docket, and when we come to any conclusion on that issue, it will be made known to the public. And if anything adverse is found in this particular docket, we give you the assurance that we will initiate prosecutions. But if there's nothing adverse about what happened, we also let you know.
Now, the Minister for Chieftaincy, Stephen Amo Boateng, also assured the public that his office will be looking at how some of these traditions and cultures can be modified.
Especially when the matter came out, I was on air and I explained everything, so probably this question shouldn't have arisen. But just to repeat, that she wasn't married to the Bogulame. It's a ritual which she has been initiated into it at age 6, and so she was focused on it. All they did was to elevate her status to a queen mother of that deity. So there was no marriage. Yes, of course, there was some incident of some MCs embellishing it on so many things, and my advice to them, sometimes if they talk to the Ministry of Chieftaincy with my registers, we can find appropriate people to manage these events. As we moved into modern world democracy, law, modernity, more education and all that, we've realized some of the customs and traditions need to be reformed. And indeed, under the Chieftaincy Act 759, we've been enjoying to work with the National House of Chiefs to look at the codification of relevant customs across the country.
You heard right there, the Chieftaincy Minister, Stephen Asamoah Boateng, the Interior Minister, Henry Quartey, COP Tete Yohuno of the Ghana Police Service, and the Greater Accra Regional Minister Titus Glover were also in attendance at this briefing. Sarah Penko has been following the story. Actually, you broke the story right here for us. But before we even go to the press conference, you were there yesterday. We played a bit of the seeming chaos that transpired around the premises of where the young girl was. Tell us what happened and indeed what today's ceremony would mean for this whole case.
So yesterday, in fact, we got indication that she was going to be released in the morning. So we were at the palace quite earlier, and preparations were fast ongoing. We witnessed a donkey, prepared in front of the palace, where we were told ceremonially it will bring her from the entrance of the community where rituals will be performed, a goat will be slaughtered in front of her, and a whole lot. So you could see the kind of enthusiasm. The priests and priestesses were all around, everybody doing their best until about 6 p.m. and then they had still not arrived. So tensions were mounting. Tensions were rising, and then obviously we got indication they were moving to Coconut Grove, where the lady in question was being taken care of by government. And all of a sudden we heard around 7 p.m. they had gotten there, and then it was explained actually that their gods had then possessed the bodies they belonged to, and so it was a spirit that was
manifesting through them.
They were manifesting, and not the people at Coconut Grove, or in the bid to demand the release of the lady to the family. And here we are today. Government has had a press briefing and explained that their investigations had proven that it wasn't an actual marriage, and medical tests had also proven that the lady is intact. She's a virgin, she's not pregnant, and the Attorney General has advised that for her best interest, she has to be returned to her family.
You, like I said, you followed the story from the very beginning, looking at the processes through which this girl has been taking and where we are now. How do you analyze really where we are right now?
Well, I would say it's an interesting journey. At least it has given us, as well as the general public, an insight into the tradition of the people of Nungwa. I think there were some excesses that did not go down well for us as humans, considering normal traditional marriages, but we have got the understanding that it's excesses that happen, and so they would continue with their tradition where the young lady is expected to lead them with this year's Homo Festival. Thank
you very much, Sarah Pinkro. Let's get a quick word from the Executive Director of the Child Rights International, Bright Opia. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us on Hot Edition.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Let me first get your thoughts on your interpretation of what has transpired today and what the government has decided to do.
Well, the first thing that I would say is that the government has really managed the processes very well to ensure that all the professionals that are supposed to work on the girl do what is expected of them. The services of the clinical psychologist, all the tests needed to be done to be able to come to some conclusion, the engagement with the community, engagement with parents, and also engagement with the traditional authorities. I think that these are all steps that leads to how best we can integrate the child into the family, and some decisions that the government has also taken in respect to the care and education of the child. So at this level, I think that what needed to be done, they've been able to do that. Even last week that they wanted to send a child back to the family, but a few things came up and they have to delay till today. But what is the most important thing is that government, despite the fact that government have released the child to the family, the decision of government in respect to what needed to be done in respect to the welfare of the child, I don't think that it should cease. And also that the decision of Attorney General to investigate if there is any criminal matter should also continue. So this is not the conclusion to the matter that we are putting it to rest, but I think that there are certain aspects of it that must still be pursued, especially when it comes to the right to education and then the protection for the child. And I'm sure all the inquiries that they've carried out on the girl point to a certain direction, and I think that at the appropriate time, things would also unfold for people to know the state of the family, the state of the child, and then what education of the child should be in this particular circumstance. So, for me, it's not the end of it in respect to what government need to do, but whatever it is, whether they have released the child to the family or not, the state responsibility should still continue.
So for you, generally, it's a good thing that the government has done. How would you respond to critics who think that the government could have bitten harder than it has now? Yes, bearing in mind what the gender minister designate has said, and even what the chieftaincy minister said in terms of modifying some of our cultures. Some critics think that the government, has not bitten as hard as it should in terms of the fact that this is still a minor we are dealing with.
Yes, you see, that is because it's a minor, a lot goes into it. And at a certain point also, if you are not careful, you end up violating the right of the child to have access to a certain environment. Because one, we know that the unit system, the primary unit system for every child is the family. Then the state creates another level for it to be able to take out certain responsibilities that the primary unit cannot do. So in this context, it is not the release of the child. It is not because of the demand that is coming from the traditional authorities, but it's because it is part of the reintegration processes that must be carried out. So and once it's the reintegration process, it doesn't end here. Periodically, the state must have a hand in how how things will go for the child and what needed to be done for the state to come to a reasonable conclusion to say that, okay, I'm okay looking at how the welfare of the child is. So we should decouple the issue of traditional and custom from this particular issue. If there are things that the child must perform and it falls within the confines of the law and it's legitimate for that the child should perform it, I don't think that this would have any implication on the child.
In fact, Mr. Pierre, on that point, that's the more reason why people believe that even the timing for her release is quite concerning, because as you have indicated that distinction, and then also the fact that whatever she's been asked to do now within the circles of the tradition as a queen mother of the area has not been clearly distinguished from what falls within the law, which we should all be concerned about. So this timing of release, is it one that concerns you as well?
Yeah, it would be a concern if certain things were not spelled out clearly as to what the mandate of the parent will be and that of the traditional authorities, and in what context should the child perform those rights if there is a need for that to be performed, and even if it conforms with the law, then those things we expect that the state will have a direct hand and even provide a security in the performance of duties so that nobody will go to the extent of abusing the right of the child in the process, or to do certain things that would also confirm that you have taken a certain position in respect to the welfare of the child. So clearly, if all those things were not agreed on for it to inform government to release the child, then that will also raise a whole lot of issues about it. But what I know is that the release of the child is not because the traditional authorities are demanding for it, but because they feel that it's part of the reintegration processes that they have outlined, that at a certain point in time, looking at the work that they've done about her, they have to release the child to the parent for care. And when the time is due for the child to go back to school, the state has already taken a position on that also, to place the child in a boarding facility. So let's see how things would unfold within the next 2 or 3 weeks to see if some of the promises made by the state or some of the conclusion that they've arrived at is anything to go by respect to the welfare of the child. And Ocansey, you should also know that apart from the welfare of the child, there's also a criminal aspect that Attorney General is investigating. So we don't know the conclusions that they've drawn. So if there is any matter of criminality, I think that they'll pursue it from that angle. But so far as I'm concerned, and so far as this release is concerned, it's also part of the reintegration process, not necessarily because they have released the child to go and perform certain rites, because they have released the child to be with the family, and any step that the state will take, they will still continue to do so.
I see. Now, if you say that, from what you do know, it's not because of the demands of the traditional authorities, reason why she was released. Well, to some who have followed this, at least from the events of last night, it would be difficult to believe, because we're hearing these traditional authorities of Nungua threatening to invoke the wrath of the gods on the minister and by extension the president if the girl wasn't released as of last night, right? And they stormed the Coconut Grove Regency Hotel where this girl was being kept under state protection. They also performed some traditional rites, we understand, there with some eggs and so on. Then this afternoon, there's a press conference, announces her release. The sequence of events from the public's observation would only be a reaction to the threats of last night, is it not?
Yes, it is. I see it, this is becoming so because the state processes that they have outlined, I don't think that they've been able to communicate that properly, because last week, Friday, government intended to release the child to the family when even the traditional authorities did not intend to do all the rituals or the visit and whatsoever action that they took last night. So clearly, it gives me the indication that, yes, there's a processes that have been outlined, and what delayed the processes is another matter that we'll talk about for us to even believe that it is because of the action that they've taken that has resulted into that kind of a thing. But so far as I'm concerned, and so far as the welfare of the child is concerned, the processes is what I'm concerned about. I'm not really concerned about the actions and inactions of anybody. But what we need to measure the standard of or the performance of the state in respect to this particular child is to see whether all the processes that have been outlined within the Children's Act in obtaining a social inquiry report and be certified that this report is enough to inform either prosecution or to inform reintegration or to give some kind of a safe environment for the child. That is what, for me, we should measure this release against. But as you said, those things can also influence. So if indeed it did, then we have to begin to question as to whether the state has exhausted all the processes that is needed for the child to be reintegrated back to the community. If not so, then we can come to that conclusion that the state was coerced to take the action that they did. But looking at how we have followed up the case up to last week, Friday, where the report of the clinical psychologist suggested a certain line of action to be taken, I would say that that might have informed the decision, but not necessarily the excesses that we experienced last night.
Mr. Pia, just briefly before you go, the first time we spoke about this issue, both of us were on the same page that it seemed the monitoring institutions were not doing their job, as it were, in ensuring this did not even happen in the first place. Exactly. We've heard what the minister and the other government officials have told us. How would you expect them to act beyond what they've told us publicly whilst they release this girl to the family, in terms of protecting her in the period?
What we should expect from the state system is the follow-up. What comes after integration? Because once you've done integration, the system expects that you do a follow-up to certify yourself that, yes, indeed, the integration that I've done is giving me the kind of result or the outcome that I'm expecting, or the behavior and the conduct of the parent, or even the community towards the child. So now that they have done integration, we have to measure their words and the decision to release the child on the basis of that integration and begin to question certain activities that they will do afterwards. So if we are not getting those activities after they've done the integration, then we have to come back to the table to draw the attention to it that, look, this is not just an ordinary case, but it's a case that we must pursue to have some conclusions, to satisfy ourselves that, yes, indeed, we've taken certain actions to protect the interests of the child.
So I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Beatrice, Executive Director of the Child Rights International, joining us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, also on W93.5 in YM. If you're just joining us, government has released the underage queen mother of Nungwa, Na Okromo, also known as Na Yomo Ayemode, into the care of her parents. Government, at a media briefing, said the investigations have established that Na Okromo is not married to the chief priest of Nungwa, Babuolomo, and she remains a virgin. Na Yomo Ayemwade was also taken into the custody of the state on April 1, following her alleged betrothal and subsequent customary marriage to the Babu Ulama. And we saw what happened last night at the premises of the Coconut Grove Regency Hotel, and that's what we've been having a conversation on. But away from that, the Office of the Special Prosecutor has filed fresh charges against the former Chief Executive Officer of the Public Procurement Authority, Ejenim Boating Ejay. The OSP filed the charges on 17th of April 2024. Ejenim Boating Ejay faces 8 charges related to the misuse of public office for personal gain and manipulation of the procurement process to gain an unfair advantage in securing procurement contracts. Additionally, 1 charge of misusing public office for personal profit against his co-accused, Francis Kweku, who happens to be his brother-in-law, has been dropped. Now, the charge sheet was filed by the special prosecutor at the Criminal Division of the High Court in Accra yesterday, April 17. Mr. J is already facing 17 counts after he was accused of establishing a company named Talent Discovery Limited, TDL, as a front to fraudulently secure public contracts. The charges comprise 8 counts of using public office for profit and 9 counts of directly or indirectly influencing the procurement process to obtain an unfair advantage in the award of a procurement contract. His brother-in-law, Francis Kwekwahen, alleged to be the CEO of TDL and holding a minority stake, was also charged with 1 count of using public office for profit. Mr. J was the CEO of the Public Procurement Authority from March 2017 to August 2019. He was sacked from the office by President Akrofi upon the recommendation of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice Shraj after he was captured in a video documentary titled Contract for Sale by Manasseh Zuria. When my colleague Duke Mensah Poko has been studying the details of what we do know from the special prosecutors joining us. Duke, just give us a bit more details into these fresh charges that we have against Ejenim.
So these are, the charges are 8 counts. 4 of them relate to using public office for profit, and then the other 4 relates to indirectly influencing the procurement process to obtain an unfair advantage in the award of a procurement contract. So these are, 2 different charges, but then there are 4 counts of it, so that makes up the 8. So let's take them one after the other. That's if right. We have the time.
Perfect.
So the first count relates to using public office for profit, and this one specifically relates to a public restricted tendering procurement process in favor of Talent Discovery Limited in respect of a Ministry of Education project for the construction of a dormitory block at Collins Senior High School in the Asante Achim North District in the Ashanti region. So procurement irregularities regarding the construction of a dormitory block at Collins Senior High School. Count 2, same public office for profit. This one specifically relates to the construction of a 12-seater toilet facility at Yobodom Senior High School in the Techima North District. Third count still relates to public office for profit, and this one is in respect of the Ministry of Works and Housing project for the construction of a concrete drainage system at Santa Maria in the Greater Accra region of the Republic of Ghana by actively participating in the deliberation process and the outcome of the procurement without disclosing personal interest, so conflict of interest there. Count 4, using public office for profit, and this one specifically relates to the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority project for the supply of mobile column lift for the Takoradi port in the Western region. Same issue, participating without declaring conflict of interest. Now, count 5 relates to indirectly influencing the procurement process to obtain unfair advantage, and it relates to between June 2017 and 2019 in Accra, while holding public office, he was a member of the governing board of the Public Procurement Authority.
That's right.
And a member of the due diligence unit, and he did directly influence the award of a procurement contract in respect of education projects for the construction of a dormitory block at Ocansey High School. So essentially, these new charges relate to new information that the OSP has been able to uncover by way of his investigations, and they add up to the 17 that he's already facing in court. So it looks like his lawyers would have a lot more to do than they are already doing. And if you look at the facts that the OSP is going to adduce in court, it says that he's acting on the referral of the president, talks about how ABAJ abused his office while he was in charge of the Public Procurement Authority, and the fact that this is based on investigative work that was done by a journalist.
So you can talk about 25 in all. 25.
Absolutely, yes.
Let's have a conversation a bit further on this matter, and Duke, if you just stay with us. And Martin Bebo, private legal practitioner, is joining us on the telephone for a conversation on this. Lawyer, appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Good evening, Mr. Ocansey.
And I know this is a matter that you have taken keen interest in right from the moment that this documentary was released. Now we're seeing fresh charges that's leveled against the public former PPA boss by the special prosecutor. 8 of them as detailed by Duke Mensah-Poku. Now, what do you see in this, especially because the special prosecutor is saying he's now moving on this path upon the referral from the president?
I see a sense of renewed urgency by the special prosecutor to fight corruption. You know, his office, okay, we'll not always talk about him. He and his office have been relatively quiet for some months now, especially after he handed over the files on Cecilia Dapa to Yoko. And by the way, we are consistently calling on Yoko to update us whether they took over the money that the special prosecutor handed over to the Dapa, and also whether they froze the assets, the bank accounts. Good. So after the Dapa matter left the office hasn't had as much media scrutiny and attention as it enjoyed the months prior to handing over. So I think that this is a case that would once again bring the office of the special prosecutor to the front burner. And it's good because, Mr. Jabe himself is in highlighting the advocacy aspect, the prevention of corruption aspect. So that each time there is a new case like this and he's in the news, it's also a reminder to all of us that we ought to be careful, because if you don't tread, if you don't live within the law and you are involved in activities like this, you could fall in trouble. Yes, we are not saying by this statement that Mr. ABAJ is guilty. No, but even the whole process, the fact that there will be a charge sheet against you, you go to court for years and the rest, that alone in itself, sends some chills down the average person's spine. So I think that this new case is going to, in a way, number one, preach the prevention of corruption story, because with what we are doing now, advocating and dissecting the case, we are preaching prevention. And also number two, to show that, yes, the office is alive and up to the task.
I see, and it's a very important point to talk about prevention and so on. But then again, also we're looking at the counts, the 17 charges earlier, and then this 8 that we've detailed as well, related to the misuse of public office for personal gain and the manipulation of the procurement process to gain an unfair advantage in securing procurement contracts. Now, the procurement corruption is one thing that we have also been dealing with over the period. I mean, and then looking at the details of it, beyond just this matter, would you expect that the special prosecutor would expand these tentacles beyond this particular case to be able to also look at other procurement-related breaches that had led to corruption as has been seen over the period?
Absolutely. Absolutely. As long as citizens also cooperate with the office and citizens make complaints, because the office will tell you that they also need our cooperation. They need a lot of our cooperation. Without citizens providing information, etc., the office can't do much. So I expect that apart from this case, there would be other ones. And also, I think other cases have been reported that border on corruption, and most especially, you're talking about procurement. Yes, I think there are other cases, especially I know Kojo Poku, the energy analyst and then MPP presidential aspirant. He reported a case of ECG in the year 2016 in the Mahama administration. He reported a case concerning the Mahama administration that there was some corruption at ECG, some tendering for some meters, etc. That's not been done. So I'm aware the special prosecutor is investigating that. I think there's also another case, I can't quite remember the name, but it also borders on procurement, etc. So this is not going to be the first and the last case concerning procurement breaches and indirectly influencing the procurement process.
Mr. Pegwe, Beatrice here. I'm just looking at the new fresh charges, or the fresh charges that he's received. 8 of them in addition to the 17. Do you foresee these 8 adding to the 17, adding up to the many years he would have received just with the old 17 counts that he already had?
Yes. They are going to, so this result, they will add a caveat. That is, if he is convicted. Yes, if he is convicted, it's most likely because the fact that these are fresh charges, on the face of it, suggests that these charges relate to a transaction which is different from what he's already standing trial for. So once the transactions are different, then in that case, if he is convicted, the sentences will not run concurrently here because these are 2 different trials. You see, they didn't start at the same time. So in the event that he's convicted, you know that the first one, the one that's in court, is been running for some years. So it means that it will be ahead of this current case, the 17th April case, by some years. So in the same way, if there's a conviction, the first one will run its own course, and then this fresh case will also run its own course. Although, in terms of reforms, we've been looking to see whether we should be able to do something about this when they relate to the same person, because I'm aware of people in Nsawam who have like 3 different convictions running 3 different streams, and sometimes it can be heart-wrenching. Yes, I'm not belittling the harm done to society, etc. But elsewhere, because we also think that the prison system is to rehabilitate people, the sentences shouldn't be such that the person will end up dying in the prison. No, there should be an opportunity for the person to come back to society so that people will see him and say, hey, here's Mr. Simesi who went to jail for X number of years, etc. Yeah, I think Justice Gauthier makes that point in there are a number of cases. Amankwa alias Spider, and a number of other cases. Also even Igbo Man, Frimpong alias Igbo Man versus the Republic. There are a number of decisions. Any Igbo has also made the same point that the person should go and be able to come back, let society see him, and then we'll learn some further lessons.
Mr. Pegbu, before you go, you talked about the need for us to expand beyond what we are just talking about. And quite recently, the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, where we get to have a lot of these cases coming up, James Kluchaveji, was concerned about how we treat some of the revelations that come out from their findings and their own probings. For you, how do you think this very case and the new interest, as it were, of the AG to pursue it serve as a deterrent to others who may be in the same position or are thinking of doing similar things?
Yeah, this is a chilling reminder, as I mentioned earlier, because once this has come up, it's a question to us, because you see, what are the likely penalties in the event that he's convicted? Section 179B says that the prison sentence is what? Up to 10 years, and also a fine. Just like the way Sednam was convicted, was it 2 days ago, right? Yeah, so this case, for me, it's a good reminder at the right time, because it appears as human beings, sometimes we're that intransigent. We kind of dig in our heels when it comes to crime, etc. But also, when we have these cases that constantly come up, in a way, they remind us that, hey, you all ought to be careful. So for me, this case goes very far, even without a conviction. This case goes very far, because, this is not going to be the last time we'll talk about this case. It's likely on Saturday we'll discuss it again. It will go into next week, the print media, etc. So it's good. It's a warning, to all of us.
Counsel, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Martin Pepper is private legal practitioner there. So there's a lot to handle for him, as
yes,
you indicated.
Look for a lot for him to look forward to in court. I mean, his lawyers will have to be working extra time, extra hard to try and see if they can snatch him from the jaws of the law.
But I'm just wondering, though, before you go, looking at the severity of the case or the charges that are against him, is there a possibility that he could, slip through any of these charges?
Every man has his day in court, and the lawyers will tell you, audio term pattern, you must give the other part, you must give him fair trial. So, yes, his lawyers obviously will adduce a case of defense as to whether indeed
that will go through
that was the case or not, and the state will also make its case. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Indeed.
Duke Mensah Poku there joining us on this matter. So live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, 15 minutes over the hour, 6 p.m. This evening, disgruntled labor unions have given the Finance Ministry and the Controller and Accountant General 1 week to transfer all their deducted funds to designated institutions or risk a widespread industrial disruption. They reckon that deductions for their Tier 2 pensions and other third-party contributions have not been credited at the various institutions, a situation they contend can stifle union operations. President of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, Angel Kabono, says the Accountant General has failed to regularly transmit these deductions over the period. According to him, the last time government sent the deductions was in December 2023. He fears the possible implications of this as some members risk losing their right compensation after retirement.
The payment of dues to unions, our contribution to SNIT, our contribution to our Tier 2, and other obligations such as when somebody takes a loan facility from a financial institution. All these monies deducted are part of the worker's salary. Unfortunately, the Controller and Accountant General's Department has deducted the money, but the monies have not been paid to the various third-party organizations. What it means is that from January 2024 till you and I are talking, there's been no payment done. But the fact of the matter is that the deductions are actually done. So the question we want to ask is, why do you deduct money from a worker's account and then you don't transmit the money to its appropriate destination? Why do you do that?
Questioning where the deduction and the funds that have been deducted so far could be kept. He, on behalf of other unions, have issued a 1 week ultimatum to government to ensure all the deductions are duly credited at the right boards and institutions. Yes, Angel Kabono again.
Government should pay the monies by next week, Friday.
What happens if that is not done?
We will take steps to advise ourselves.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, we will take different industrial relation actions that workers will take to get their demands, because this is a legitimate demand. This money does not belong to government.
Angel Kabono is the president of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, there. Meanwhile, the Teachers and Education Workers Union, TEWO, has joined calls for government to immediately review the free senior high school program to allow parents also share in the cost. According to the union, the current situation has increased enrollment in schools, which has imposed a burden on the non-teaching staff in the various institutions across the country. General Secretary of TEWO, Akrofi, was addressing a press conference at the Komwa Fete in the Central Region earlier today.
These policies, after 7 years of implementation, need to be reviewed to make it even better. It cannot be business as usual. They need to involve other stakeholders in the provision of facilities is very crucial. Sometimes food becomes an issue in some schools. Parents must be ready and prepared to shoulder some responsibilities to make this policy the best of policies for our child. It's time we review, and this one is not the politicians' review that I'm talking about. I am talking about educational sector review, a review from a union that is within the education sector and knows what is going on in this sector. Let us review it, take off those ones that have challenges and maintain the ones that are best for our people so that our children will have the full benefit of the policy.
Now, TEWO also served notice of industrial disharmony within 2 weeks if government fails to release their second-tier pension funds. Akrofi again.
This month, otherwise, we will join hands. We will join hands with other public sector unions and do what unions know how to do. Because the future is not far away. The future starts from today. So if my investment does not go to the fund managers to invest and give me the needed profit, then you are jeopardizing my pension gradually. And in this country, pensions already are low. So if the little investment that will enhance my pensions small, and no small for my area, and the poverty and cabin.
And you heard Akrofi, he's the General Secretary of TEWO. You're still here on Hot Edition. Stories we brought you so far. Government releases underage Queen Mother Na Okromo into care of her parents after investigations revealed that she is not married to the Nungwa Chief Priest Gbogbo Wolomo. We've also brought you that story about the contract for sale saga taking a new twist as Office of the Special Prosecutor files 8 fresh charges against former PPA boss Ejeni Boateng J. If you're joining us or you've been joining us from the beginning, you've been with us from the beginning of a Hot Edition, you can send us your thoughts on the stories we brought you so far on WhatsApp 055 2300 927 055 2300 927. We're also live on Facebook 3FM 92.7. Coming up shortly is
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition. Coming up, the International Monetary Fund projects single-digit inflation target of 8% for Ghana by end year 2025. We'll bring you details. My name is Menu Afo. Stay with us. I'll move go straight to our first story. The International Monetary Fund has projected an optimistic economic outlook for Ghana, forecasting a significant drop in inflation to single digits by end of 2025. This projection, according to its economic outlook reports, aligns closely with government's ambitious targets, signaling a potential turnaround for the country's ailing economy. My colleague Bismarck Awusa has the details.
Projects Ghana's end-year inflation to be 8% for 2025, a marked improvement from the government's aim to reduce inflation from 23% to 15% by the end of 2024 and subsequently achieve single-digit inflation for 2025. This comes after a turbulent period that saw Ghana grappling with soaring inflation, reaching a 22-year high of 54.1% in recent years, far exceeding the target of 31.9%. The last time Ghana reported a single-digit inflation rate was in 2021 at 9.97%. The positive outlook from the IMF is attributed to the robust measures and gains made under the IMF program, which has been instrumental in stabilizing Ghana's economy and steering it towards recovery. Meanwhile, the Bank of Ghana has committed to maintaining its end-year inflation target band of 15% plus or minus 2% for 2024, with expectations that this inflation process will continue and underlying inflation rates will be managed through a tight monetary policy.
That was a Business News Desk report by my colleague Bismarck Awusa on an IMF single-digit inflation forecast of 8% for Ghana by end year 2025. In more stories, Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors is demanding favorable forex rates following Bank of Ghana's proposal to hand over operationalization of the Gold for Oil program to banks. The central bank recently proposed that commercial banks assume responsibility for the Gold for Oil initiative to enable it concentrate on its primary objectives, including monetary policy and price stability. But speaking to 3 Business Chief Executive of the Chamber, Dr. Patrick Ofori said the move should ensure that members are not shortchanged.
If they are going to rule on all the private sector and the banks are all going to participate, in that case it means, assuming we require $400 million and the banks that are financing our trade, instead of, let's say, giving that money directly to us, can use that for the gold purchase program, and then in 2 weeks' time, when I'm in need of the dollar, the bank is guaranteed that there is availability of dollar to supply to my partners offshore. That brings some level of certainty and then forex availability, and that by so doing can also help the central bank to regulate the rate that they give to them. Because you look at current arrangement, apart from best having guarantee or guarantee forex, they also have an exchange rate that is considerably lower than the market.
Dr. Patrick Ofori is Chief Executive of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors. Now, before we go, Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Commodity Exchange has given a hint on plans to list cocoa beans and other tree crops on the exchange. Speaking at the maiden edition of the Ghana Commodities Symposium, he indicated that the exchange is targeting to trade some 5 million metric tons of different produce.
The Ghana Commodities Symposium was aimed at reflecting on the remarkable advancements the exchange has achieved.
So we started the engagements. We do need to accelerate, but the idea is that we have a national exchange, and the national exchange should be supporting the national agricultural commodity, which is cocoa. Of course, other commodities as well will come into the mix, like cashew and others.
The GCX is expected to serve as a catalyst for progress, harnessing the country's collective expertise to propel sustainable development and prosperity. The program was in partnership with IFC and GCB Bank.
The Ghana Warehouse Receipt Project is a technical and advisory support project of the International Finance Corporation. Farmer gets, access to finance to grow its business and improve its productivity.
A farmer and an aggregator, Caleb Baton, shared his experience.
Within a month, I was able to do about 3 transactions with GCX, and the money was very appreciable. So I deposited that amount to a company that is dealing with tractors, and I got a tractor out of that, and that's what I'm using to help my ag growers. And then anytime my ag growers need fans, they come to me.
The symposium was attended by industry experts, policymakers, among others.
Well, that was a report boosting Ghana commodity exchange with cocoa and other tree crops. And that brings us to the end of the business segment on Hot Edition. For more stories, please log on to our website on 3news.com. My colleague Bill Ishen is on standby with the sports news.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen and we're going to start off from the local scene because earlier today the players and the technical staff of Asante Kotoko met with the patron of the club, Asante Hene Otunfo Setutu II, to discuss the form of the team in recent games and the future of Prosper Nate Ogum. My colleague Richard the Champon, who is the head of Akuma Sports, was at the location, that's the Menchia Palace, and has his report.
Asante Kotoko were represented there by the playing body, the technical team, and the interim management committee. And the meeting lasted for a little over an hour. We can confidently report that Prosper Nate Ogum is still at post and that he will lead Kotoko into their next league game versus Samates on Sunday at the Kumasi Baba Nyara Sports Stadium. The Kotoko players told His Royal Majesty that yes, they have lost confidence. The fact that they keep losing games has affected their confidence level, and it is the reason why they are not churning out good results for Asante Kotoko. Otunfo charged the technical team and the playing body to ensure that they reverse the trend of bad results that they are getting in recent weeks. One thing that His Royal Majesty said was that if they don't turn the results and begin to post good results for Asante Kotoko, he himself will pick a phone and call the Ghana Football Association to dissolve Asante Kotoko. This is the charge that he gave to the playing body and the technical team. And so they ought to go and work and turn the results for Asante Kotoko. Reporting from Kumasi, Richard Echampong, Akuma Sports.
That was Richard Echampong there with the report. Now to some other stories. Earlier today, the Ghana Football Association officially announced the appointment of Richard Kingston as the head coach of the Black Stars. That is Ghana's under-17 national team. Now, in an exclusive interview with 3 Sports, Kingston stated that he is the right man to lead the team back to glory.
There's going to be pressure. I know Ghanaians are craving to see us going back to our glory days in the youth level. So that's why the FA was very patient to bring in a new group of technical team that are young and upcoming coaches that have learned youth football, have been in an environment that have a lot of youth players. You're talking of Right to Dream. I worked at Right to Dream for 4 years. I was the U18s coach. Most of the players that are now playing in big leagues, big clubs, some of them went through my hands at some point. So that alone is an example. Talking of Kamadin, talking of Nuama, talking of Adingra, and so on and so forth. Now we have Osman coming up. We have another top talent coming up, Arafat and all of them. So for me, I have what it takes.
That was Lai Kingston, the head coach of the Black Stars. Now, the Black Stars will be playing in the Wafu B Under-17 Championship that will be held on the 15th of May this year. To the European football, later tonight there is the UEFA Europa League. Some teams will be playing in the quarterfinals in hopes of getting to a place in the semi-finals, and one of those teams is Liverpool, who lost the first leg of the encounter against Atalanta at Anfield by 3-0 and will be hoping to overturn that huge deficit. Jurgen Klopp was speaking to the press ahead of the game.
So we are here and try to win the game tomorrow. That's all. And I think that's That's what we should do. And we'll see if that's possible if you play. A lot of moments we had last week, really good moments where I thought I was a little bit lucky, but in the end they won completely deserved. They played a really good game. We didn't play extremely well. And so that's it now. Let's start with a much better performance and let's try to win the game, and then we will see how much time is left in the end. But that's all.
That was Jurgen Klopp there, the manager of Liverpool. And here are the fixtures in the UEFA Europa League for you. AS Roma will be hosting AC Milan. Atalanta will be hosting Liverpool. Marseille will be playing against Benfica. And Mohamed Kudus's West Ham United will host Bayer Leverkusen. That brings an end to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen, and of course Beatrice is on standby with more on Hot Edition.
And you're still here on Hot Edition. Welcome to Campaign Trail. On Campaign Trail today, we start off from the flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, John Mahama, who has expressed confidence that after touring all the 16 regions of the country on his Building the Ghana tour, the NDC will emerge victorious at the polls in December. Announcing the next phase of his plans on the road to the seat of government, John Mahama said that his full campaign team will hit the ground running in July.
Northeast is the 16th region we've come to, and we are ending the Building Ghana tour here. The next phase is the public presentation of Nana Jane as my running mate. And that is going to take place on the 24th of April. And so those of you who are able to come, you come to the University of Professional Studies, Accra. Nana Jane will be presented publicly and officially to the whole of Ghana as a running mate for the 2024 election. After that, the next would be the launching of our campaign teams, announcement of our campaign teams. And then again, sometime in June or July, we will launch the official campaign for the 2024 election. And then in July, we would outdoor the manifesto. And so all these consultations we've done in all the 16 regions, they're going to reflect in our manifesto, and we'll launch the manifesto officially in July. And after that, I'm going to come to every constituency in Ghana and come and spend time with you on the campaign trail. That one, when we come, we're talking full politics, only politics. And we're campaigning for the 2024 election. I am certain that by the grace of God, inshallah, NDC will emerge victorious on 7th December 2024.
And he had the flag bearer of the opposition National Democratic Congress confident that he would be re-elected to lead the country come December 7, 2024. We stay on campaign trail because one of the leaders for the newly formed Alliance for Revolutionary Change, Alan Kwadwo Tremantin, has also been speaking about whether or not this new formation, as it were, would have any impact come December 7. He's been speaking to Alfred Ocansey on the chances of the Alliance for Revolutionary Change. Alfred, I know you had a lengthy or rather a brief conversation with Alan Kwadwo Tremantin.
Yeah, it was quite consolidated in a very short period.
Okay.
A lot to talk about, but we can take a listen to him now.
All right.
What informed this, the Alliance for Revolutionary Change that you launched yesterday? What is the end objective of it?
As you are aware, there are a number of political parties and other political groups that have come up on the political scene, in the political space, that are priming themselves up for the general election in December this year. Even though we are competing with each other for power, we listen to each other and we monitor what each other grouping is talking about. Now, I realized, even though the campaign is yet to get heated up, I realized that there are a number of these political groups that have a message that is very similar to my own message. You know, I've been in this game for some time.
Indeed.
And I'm a straight shooter. I don't deceive people. So I am very transparent and open about what I believe in and what I can do. So monitoring what my other competitors or colleagues have been saying, I realized that there are certain fundamental issues underpinning the narrative and the message that we are carrying. So we started having conversations amongst ourselves. And there was a sense that, yes, we are all competing for power. But if we are talking about the same thing, why don't we come together and fight together for power? And there were 6 major considerations around which there was some consensus of mind amongst the parties that now have become partners in their alliance. But of course, we needed, once it was an alliance, we needed to agree on the basic principle underpinning the alliance. That's the structure of the alliance.
So what's the basic principle that underpins it?
So basically we are saying that let's say the individual alliance parties, alliance partners, will each maintain their own identities and symbols and their, I would say, the structure of their groups and their entities. But then as an electoral alliance, that we would campaign together. So basically that is, and then we would have a national steering committee that provides the strategic direction for our campaign. So basically that's the context and the framework for coming together. But I would say that the fundamental considerations that have brought us together, as I pointed out, there are 6 fundamental considerations.
I see.
So one, okay.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But since you're saying that they're going to maintain their original identities.
Yes, yes.
But are you going to have one message, even though they are going to campaign with the original identities?
Yes. So it's a consolidated message. The consolidated because we are all talking about the same thing. We are preaching the same message, the same narrative. Of course, with minor differences and different nuances. So all of us will maintain our individual. So I still remain the founder and leader of the Movement for Change. Abu Sakara still remains the leader of the National Interest Movement, ODK, and all the others. But on the ballot paper, because they've all endorsed my candidature as the presidential candidate for the alliance, it means that on the ballot paper in December, it will be Alan Chamatin with the symbol of the Movement for Change, which is the butterfly. So I think we need to clarify this. This is not a merger. This is an alliance of independent political entities.
I see. But for the issues of political brand identity and also the marketing of the Alliance for Revolutionary Change, some have argued that you're going to create confusion in the minds of people if you're saying that you're an alliance, but you're still having the different persons within the alliance campaigning on their own, but yet you have an umbrella called the Alliance for Revolutionary Change. So what's the difficulty in coming together under that umbrella?
Under the Movement for Change.
Under the Alliance for Revolutionary Change.
So we've come together under the umbrella of the alliance, but I am saying that the basis for coming together is that we will maintain our independent identities and symbols. And there ought not to be any confusion because what we are saying is that, look, even if you audit the framework of the alliances that existed before, we had the great alliance between the NPP and then the CPP. Incidentally, I was a member of the negotiating team of that great alliance. So Oduroyi Sykes, myself, Nana Akufo-Addo at that time, the Great Alliance did not mean that we were subordinating the identity of the NPP to that of the Great Alliance.
I see.
So I don't see the basis for any confusion because it's not the same thing. But because of the fact that we had that Great Alliance, there were, I would say, the decisions were made that I think got everybody in the alliance pleased about working together. But it did not mean that the constituent components have lost their identities.
I see. With the amalgamation of all of these political movements together, some have raised that concern that it would lead to the dilution of the messaging, the messaging which is important, because you indicated earlier that you are very truthful, you are transparent, you are a straight shooter. Your message is clear. Now you've aligned with others who are also going to be campaigning on their messages.
Not on their messages. But as I said, the basis for us coming together in the first place is that we have a common narrative. So what I would suggest to you
what was the common narrative?
Let me tell you, basically that's what you probably need to know.
Indeed.
The first is about ushering in a new type of leadership in our country. All of us as alliance partners believe that the time is nigh in Ghana for us to have a leadership that is visionary, a leadership that is competent, a leadership that believes in accountability, a leadership that is compassionate, but at the same time is progressive in terms of being transformational. And that, for us, is the substance, the overarching component of the narrative. Look, it's about leadership. The great nations of this world became great nations not on the back of their political parties, but on account of leadership. If you take China, for example, China is an old, I would call, civilization. But remember that it was not until the late 80s, Mao Zedong, without doubt, was probably the most revered leader of China. But the one who actually made the difference was Deng Xiaoping. And he took over the leadership of China at the end of the 80s. And that was when he literally, with his policies, turned around China. And China has never looked back. And this is just within a period of 30 years. So we believe that the alliance partners believe that the difference is leadership. And the characteristics of the leadership is what I've mentioned. Secondly, it's about transformational policies.
Okay.
Now, you can have change, but it is marginal and incremental. Now, if you want to fundamentally affect people's lives, that change must be transformational. It must be revolutionary. For that informed the choice of name. The definition of revolution is a dramatic and complete change. So that's the second one. So we're talking about transformational policies in all sectors of the economy. Number three, all of us believe in the primacy of the private sector. Because, again, if you audit the experience of all the successful candidates, it is the private sector that leads the transformation agenda. And that's what we all believe in. Not governments, it's the private sector. Number four, we all believe in a united Ghana. And we all believe that we must go beyond the duopoly, this dominance of two parties that for 32 years have been at the helm of affairs, and yet we are still where we are. And basically it means that you need a new political architecture that goes beyond the duopoly. And that's where the independent candidate comes in.
Right.
Because this country is divided in the middle. Every issue is politicized. It is either NDC or MPP, and they're both fighting. So you need somebody, an arbiter, an honest broker, who stands in the middle, is elected, not on the basis of a political party.
And you say you're the one?
Yes, and the alliance partners have agreed that they've agreed to two things. The concept of an independent candidate to break the duopoly, and also in my leadership also, as because there could be other
but do you think
independent candidates. But let me complete that. So basically,
yes.
So that's the fourth one.
The fifth one.
The fifth one is about putting young people and women at the center of our national development agenda. You know, the demographic dividend in Ghana, it's a very serious one. 73% of our population are below the age of 35 years. 73% of the population. So it cannot be that you can have transformation, you can have progress in a country that does not put a focus on young people. When you have 73%, and women also are more than 50% of the population.
The sixth one.
Yes, and the sixth one is about inspiring behavioral, attitudinal, and mindset change in Ghana. Because in spite of all that I've talked about, if Ghanaians don't change their mindset, the level of indiscipline, the lack of respect for the rule of law, the rampant clamor for wealth. Everybody wants to get rich.
What's your plan to tackle corruption?
So basically,
corruption is in there.
What I'm saying is that behavioral change is a cardinal component of what is welding us together.
And I get the point. And one of the misbehavior in public sector is the corruption that we see among politicians.
Yes.
You say that you are incorruptible.
Yes.
You are clean.
Yes, absolutely. I've said I've never been corrupt, and I'll never be corrupt.
Have you ever taken a bribe?
If I say I've never been corrupt and I'll never be corrupt, I'm not corrupt now. In law, as long as we say the matter speaks for itself.
Have you ever taken a bribe?
I'm not taking a bribe, and it will not even happen.
You've never taken a bribe?
How is it going to happen? In fact, I don't want us to get into, use all our time talking. But if a politician in Africa is able to say categorically, with the full force of, the energy that he has, to say that I've never been corrupt, I'll never be corrupt, what further testimony do you require?
What's your plan to fight corruption?
Number one is about leading by example. It is not the be-all or end-all of the fight against corruption, but you need a leader who will lead by example and also ensure that even if you are not corrupt, that you don't provide safe haven for corrupt political appointees and public sector officials. And I mean, my record is clear. Nobody around, unless, I somehow it does not come up on my radar.
As Alan Kojo Chamanting there is the leader of the Movement for Change, and now, according to him, he has been selected by the Alliance for Revolutionary Change as their presidential candidate in that interview. And the full complement of that interview will be aired on Ghana Tonight at 10 p.m. on TV3. So make a date.
Indeed, and let's bring you the story from the Ministry of Railways Development, and that ministry says that in conjunction with its agencies, the Ghana Railway Development Authority and the Ghana Railway Company Limited, together with officials and engineers from PESA, BIDOS SA, the Polish manufacturer of the diesel multiple unit, wishes to inform the general public of an incident that occurred today during the site acceptance test of the new DMU on the Tema Mpakandan railway line at approximately 12 p.m. on Thursday, 18th April 2024. That's today. While conducting the test, an incident took place around 76 plus 100 kilometers. The DMU, upon approaching the curve at that area, encountered a stationary vehicle stationed right across the rail track. Despite the immediate application of the emergency braking system, the train was unable to come to a complete stop before colliding with the vehicle. It is important to note that the vehicle was unmanned, and the location where it was found is not designated as an authorized level crossing. Thankfully, there were no injuries sustained by passengers on the train or bystanders. However, there was minor damage to the vehicle's cab section of the train. The incident, and if you're watching on Facebook, you can see visuals of what I'm reading to you about. This is a press release from the Ministry of Railways Development, and it continues to say that the incident has been promptly reported to the police, and investigations are currently underway to ascertain the circumstances surrounding the incident. The DMU involved has been moved to the workshop for further assessment and necessary repairs. We assure the public that safety remains our utmost priority, and we are committed to ensuring the continued safe operation of our railway systems. We urge all stakeholders to remain vigilant and adhere to safety protocols when operating or crossing railway tracks. We will provide further updates as the investigation progresses. So that's just an update coming from the Railway Ministry. If you're watching us on Facebook at 3FM 92.7, you will see the visuals we're showing you of this very statement coming from the Ministry of Railways Development. Alfred?
Quite a worry.
Well, fortunately, no injuries.
Yeah, but this is a recently acquired train, new one.
Oh, we can actually see the vehicle there.
From Poland. Yeah, so if you go on our Facebook page, that's the damaged train. Is there right now. I flip it around and I'm looking at this is state funds right there that we're going to use to also repair all of this as well. So look, this is one that we'll follow closely as well, get through some information from the Railways Ministry on this. But I want to say thank you very much for staying with us here on Hot Edition, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. I am Alfred Ocansey.
My name is Beatrice. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Indeed, do join me at 10 p.m. on TV3 for Ghana Tonight.